Hiya, so I wanted to talk to you about Kali energy, my favourite subject, and what happens when you call in Kali. Okay, well, first of all, I think there's kind of like two levels to this. I think there's like what happens on an identity level and what happens on a more non-dual level. So starting with the identity level, Kali energy is basically destruction. And now when people talk about destruction, people talk about it as a really kind of sometimes like a negative thing, or that she's kind of like, you know, like a red-blooded killer or something. Like it gets a bit kind of she gets talked about in a kind of, I don't know, in a bit of a crazy way. And really there is this deep motherly aspect to Kali, that basically whatever she is destroying, it's kind of like tough motherly love. So it's kind of like a tough love, and she's kind of bringing truth to your life. So when Kali really started to move through my life, she basically started destroying everything in my life that wasn't true. Relationships in my life, a new career path, so it was the end of one career and the beginning of another. And it kind of created just all of the stuckness that I'd had before started to then move into more of into the path that I was supposed to be going in, or the direction I was supposed to be heading in. So there's this kind of truth element to her, and also self-expression. So not just truth from the point of view of things happening in your life where you're headed in a more truthful, authentic path, but also truth from the point of view of self-expression. So being more honest with yourself and being able to express, I suppose, your truth more easily. So because she's kind of like representative of destruction, I also think because she's representative of destruction, I also think she has to be representative of birth, or rebirth, should we say, is a better word. So death and rebirth, because whatever is dying, or whatever is leaving your life, is making more room for something else to come in. So it's a bit like kind of like when one door closes, you know, a window opens, or whatever that expression is. There's also this sense of a kind of protection, because it is this tough motherly love that really she is willing, she wants you to look at yourself in the most truthful way. And of course, truth isn't always the easiest thing to hear or to listen to, and so, you know, that can be difficult. But at the same time, there is this element of protection, this element of it's for your best, it's with your best interests at heart. So this really, what I'm talking about, is on an identity level. But I think also you can look at Kali from a non-dual perspective too. So from the perspective of destruction, death and rebirth, Kali can also make you see through the veil of self into who you really are. And really, I think this is, I don't know, the Kali energy's true purpose is really to cut through the illusion of life, the illusion of you, for you to see who you really are. So when I called in Kali, I had worked with her in some sessions, like she had come up in a few Kundalini sessions, but I didn't feel like she was necessarily totally a part of me, and I didn't even know really that could be the case. So a friend of mine said to me, why don't you call her in? And to be honest, I was kind of skeptical. I'm not somebody, I suppose, who follows Indian gods, follows any kind of religion. So, you know, when somebody says, call Cari in, I was kind of a bit like, really? Really? But one day I found myself sitting on the edge of my bed, closing my eyes, kind of meditating for a little bit, and then just kind of asking Cari to destroy everything in my life that wasn't true. And I didn't really know the power of what I was asking really at that moment, or whether that was even going to come true. And actually, I walked away thinking, maybe that's going to happen, maybe it's not. So I forgot about it and just left it at that. And then basically all of these things started happening in my life. So like some of the things I just expressed, change of jobs, relationships gone, lots of things happened. But then something even more surprising is that I had a moment, so this is more on the non-dual level, I had a moment where the mind, I suppose I call it kind of like detached, so I stopped believing my thoughts. And this happened for about a 3-month period, and there was this underlying peace. There was full acceptance of whatever was happening. So as I was beginning this new career, it was kind of very easy to start something new when, you know, perhaps some of the negative thoughts that you might have had, like, oh, this isn't going to work out, or this or the fears that might come up, or it was kind of easy because I could just very easily see through them, and they became in many ways just kind of laughable. Now, at the time, I didn't really put all of this together. It was only later on that I was like, well, I called in Cari. I called in that I wanted her to destroy everything that wasn't true in my life. And one of those things that she was showing me was the illusion of the mind. And so this is what I mean. This is what I mean by on a non-dual level as opposed to an identity level, the power of the Cari energy. And this mind detachment, I've spoken about this in another video. The video is called, I think it's like 3 months of flow, because it was basically like I was just like in a flow state. I could see through the mind. This gap had opened up. Everything felt a lot more spacious, and there was an underlying peace and an acceptance of everything. And that was kind of like a permanent way of being. But for me, it only lasted for 3 months, because then I had this thought that came in, and it was about security, something about security, because I was so relaxed in that state of where I could see through the mind and I wasn't believing the thoughts anymore, that there was also this underlying fear that came up. It's like, well, don't relax too much, otherwise something really bad might happen and you'll just be completely nonchalant about it. So I think where this fear came in, something shifted, and then my mind went back to being how it was before. But it really has shown me the power of this Cari energy, and I feel like this Cari energy is just with me now. It's like just a part of me, and I don't know if she's going to be with me forever, or whether she's only going to be with me whilst I need her, whilst maybe she's destroying the rest of the illusion of self. I don't know. I will see, and hopefully we'll be able to make some more videos about it on here to tell you and give you an update. But the power of Cari on an identity level is really kind of revolutionizing the identity. But on the level of non-dual, it's the total destruction or the losing of this self that we call ourselves, me, the me energy.